All right, another day, another name for the Bucs offensive coordinator position. At least an interview is forthcoming. It'll be the great Mike Kafka. And if that name sounds familiar, it's because he was the Giants offensive coordinator / interim head coach with the Giants this past year, and went 2-5 after Brian Daboll was fired after a 2-8 start. And I guess the connection, if there is one, Kafka was a backup quarterback here in Tampa Bay many, many years ago, 2018, I think, somewhere around there. But, Northwestern grad, played in the NFL, coached a lot in Kansas City, kind of began his pro coaching there and worked his way up, and actually called plays for the Giants. It was given to him from Brian Daboll last year, even though he had been there as their offensive coordinator before that. And, Jackson Dart had mixed success. I mean, when he played pretty well. Their last two games weren't against any very good teams, but they scored 34 points in each game and won them both. So for whatever that's worth, and boy, oh boy, the fans are not buying any of these names that are on this list so far. They're just not excited. And look, I would just say, the good names or the better names are many of these guys are up for head coaching jobs. So until or unless,
including Kafka, who interviewed for the Giants head coaching job.
Yeah, exactly. I think he might have had one other interview too somewhere, but that's the thing. Like if these guys don't get head coaching jobs, then you're going to see some interview and or accept offensive coordinator's job. I think I saw where Mike McDaniel, of course, he's got about 5 interviews lined up for head coaching jobs, but he also has one for the Detroit Lions offensive coordinator post. So maybe he will take and Jeff Darlington, who's a friend and from Seminole here, and of course with ESPN, continues to say that there are more teams and that don't fret. Even called out the Bucs by name. That there could still be teams that he plans to talk to down the road. It all just depends on how things turn out. So I still think we're kind of early in the process, and people don't like the names that they've seen so far. And I get that, they're not sexy coordinators necessarily, but you have to start that list somewhere. I mean, Brian Callahan, not going to excite a lot of people, former head coach of the Tennessee Titans. He's only called plays a couple years. Zach Robinson from the Atlanta Falcons, probably the closest thing that they have to Liam Cohen, to be honest with you. Like Liam Cohen and Zach Robinson were in LA together with Sean McVay. In fact, the two of them are the ones that tutored Baker Mayfield when he went out there for 5 weeks. And we see what Liam Cohen was able to do with that. I know that, Zach has been in Atlanta, and Atlanta hasn't made it to the playoffs. They had the same record as the Bucs, but they've done some stuff on offense. And when they played these guys, of course, they wouldn't be playing the Bucs defense anymore if he were here. But they lit him up. I mean, Kirk Cousins had 3 games in the last 2 years and threw for about 1,200 yards. And then David Shaw, the longtime coach of the Stanford University football team. He's the Detroit Lions quarterbacks coach. And then a guy that I didn't know, Israel Wolfolk, who's the quarterbacks coach of the Cardinals. So that's your list. No one on there screams, I'm so much better than Josh Grizzard. You can't imagine it. But it's more in line with, the Liam Cohens, with the Dave Canales, guys that have been working in the NFL, maybe not necessarily calling plays, but in case of several of these guys, they have, and they have recently. So that's already a step up from what they got, prior to now. So, there's good coaches throughout this league, and whether you want to condemn, you sucked at the Giants. Well, the Giants had a rookie quarterback. They traded away Saquon Barkley. They've traded, a lot of good players, and Daboll didn't have a good run, and he got fired. He got fired halfway through the season. So I don't think you judge, an assistant coach based solely on what the team does, although apparently they've done that here in Tampa. When they fired the 5 guys, it was their fault. So, but we'll see. I think until or unless, you see Todd Monken or you see a guy like McDaniel end up with a job, then all decisions are still probably off. I think this is a daisy chain type thing. We got to find out first and foremost, does Green Bay fire their coach? They're trying to reach a deal. If they don't reach a deal, Green Bay becomes a possibility. And then Harbaugh has to make a decision. I guess he talked to Atlanta. He's doing some virtual interviews right now. He's going to start maybe making a visit or two next week, but it looks like it could come down to Atlanta or the New York Giants. We'll see. I mean, does Mike Tomlin leave? Right, Pittsburgh loses his playoff game, so there's still more mystery ahead.
Well, I still go back to what we discussed last night, and that is that what excitement did you have when they hired Dave Canales? What excitement did you have when they hired Liam Cohen? You had more excitement when they hired Josh Grizzard than those two.
Absolutely, you did.
And which one worked out best? It was not Josh Grizzard. Although maybe he was a scapegoat. Maybe he got punished because they didn't make the playoffs, even though their stats were better than Canales. Yeah. And, I don't think he was great, but I don't think he's as bad as some made him out to be. And as a first-time play caller, you're going to grow from that too. But
if the situation wasn't dire where they collapsed, right, where they and the irony, if you really break this down and you just say, okay, and look, I'm not on the headset, all right, and I don't have the game plans in front of me, and obviously some of those game plans weren't good because they didn't execute or win. But if you really break it down, what Grizzard did early in the season with so many injuries, more injuries than he had even later in the season, was start out 5-1, 6-2. The game that the wheels started to come off was actually at Detroit. Detroit battered these guys. I think the Bucs scored like 9 points and they got beat like 27-9, 24-9, something like that. And they had a spy on Baker Mayfield. Now, at that time, Baker had begun to be hurt. And then they lost Mike Evans. He had just come back from the hamstring, breaks his collarbone, right? Cataclysmic game for the Bucs, just awful. But it exposed them in some areas, both offensively and defensively. They came back and they won another game. They had that game down in Jacksonville or down in New Orleans, I believe, after that. And really the offense didn't play well, but Anthony Nelson went crazy. And really that was, their last win for a good while. But, prior to that, I thought Josh did his best work because he had 5 offensive linemen in 5 different positions. He lost Bucky Irving. Remember, they beat Seattle and San Francisco. Now imagine that. Those two teams are going to play each other in the division championship and to see who plays to go to the Super Bowl, who's going to win go to the NFC title game. And the Bucs beat both of them. Okay. Different time, right? Different place, but they still did it. So Josh Grizzard did that. Okay. And I've seen San Francisco come here or Bucs go out there the last 4 or 5 years and the Bucs did not win even with Tom Brady. But they did that. He did that. But when you hit the skids, you're looking for, how do we get better? What's the best way to get better? Who's going to pay for this? If it's not going to be the head coach, then we got to make changes. There must be changes. Someone has to be fired. And this is the route they decided to go. But the same kind of guys are the ones they're looking at are the same kind of guys like the Liam Cohens, like the Dave Canaleses that have been, maybe they've called plays, maybe they haven't called plays. They've been around good organizations. They might have had the title of offensive coordinator, just like, Cohen and those guys. I mean, Zach Robinson, like I said, was there in LA. What if he's the next Liam Cohen? I respect, certain coaches in this league like Raheem Morris. Raheem Morris knows what a good coach is. He's coached defense and offense. He coached receivers for a while with Atlanta, but he's gone against these guys. And when I was talking to Raheem about Robinson, he said, man, he goes, I think he's the next one, like the next big McVay tree guy, that's going to hit it and go a long way. And that's a pretty good endorsement, that Todd Bowles is listening to that. And Todd doesn't have to say it because he's seen, what Zach was able to do against his very defense because he's tried to stop the guy and hasn't been able to do it in 2 years, So, this is sort of the process. And you're right. People weren't, throwing ticker tape parades when they hired Dave Canales, who had never called a play in the NFL, or when they hired Liam Cohen, who had gone back and forth from Kentucky. He was Kentucky's offensive coordinator when he got the job here. He wasn't with the Rams. So wait and see how it all plays out. That's all you can do, whether you like it or don't like these names. But these are all football coaches that have achieved something. Many of them are still very young. And most of them have some connection to Sean McVay or Kyle Shanahan, which is Mike Shanahan, but whatever. We'll see. I think again, the key will be, and for me, right, if they could convince, I don't know about McDaniel because I just feel like he's going to end up with a head coaching job or go to Detroit or someplace. But if they could convince Todd Monken to come back, that's probably the best of all worlds because he's a guy that likes it here, has a relationship with Baker, didn't call plays for him in Cleveland, but two-time national champion at Georgia, knows what it looks like. He's 60 years old. He's not 30-something, first on the job. Now, did it work out with Lamar Thomas or Lamar Jackson? No, it did not with Lamar Jackson. Lamar Thomas used to be a receiver. Lamar Jackson and him didn't get along. He says, I didn't do a good enough job there. But Jackson is not Baker Mayfield. They can do stuff with their feet, but I mean, there's only one Lamar Jackson. And, even though it didn't work out, he won a Most Valuable Player award while Monken was his coach, for those 3 years. So it wasn't all bad, right? But now Harbaugh has moved on. Monken has moved on. If he comes to Tampa and he interviewed here before he got the Baltimore gig, they just simply didn't have a quarterback, that would be to me, that would be the most secure get, the one you could probably sell to fans, although that's not that important. But one that, relationship with Baker just checks a lot of boxes, right? But so does Robinson, who's a lot younger, So I don't know, man. Somebody's going to call plays, and it's really whether you win or not. All this stuff about coaches, and it's funny to me that, all these teams are kind of interviewing the same guys. And some fan bases are going to like their guy, and some are going to think they settled, But all that matters is what do you do with the chance? When you get your chance, do you win or you lose? It just doesn't matter. The names don't matter. There's a lot of young guys that have won in this league that nobody knew when they got the job. Really, they were just disciples of McVay or Shanahan. So you just got to be patient, folks. I know patience. There's not a lot of patience out there in the world today. Unless you're a Lightning fan, and then you can't wait for the next game, right?
Well, I can't wait for the next game, but you need an update on Brayden Point.
That was disappointing.
If you didn't see, he scored the third goal as the Lightning won their 10th straight game, win 5-1.
10 in a row.
Scored the third goal, but got his leg rolled up on. Looked like his knee.
Yeah.
Left the game and did not return.
Just don't let it be a ligament, man. Don't let it be an ACL or MCL or something like that.
Well, as we're recording this, the team's flying to Pittsburgh, so he might get looked at today in Pittsburgh, or they may need more time. We'll see. John Cooper did not have an update after the game, but
wow. 10 in a row, though. What's the Lightning's longest win streak?
11.
Really?
Yes. It's the fourth time in franchise history they've won 10 in a row. But the record is 11.
They could tie the record
tonight.
Yeah.
Yep. And then they set it on Friday.
Right? No, they come home for a day or two?
They'll come home for a day or two, but the next two games are still on the road in St. Louis and Dallas this weekend.
So St. Louis, if they win tonight, then St. Louis would be the chance to break it.
Correct.
Wow. Pretty cool.
Yeah, they're on a roll. Nikita Kucherov, a 10-game point streak, 9 straight games with multi-points.
Jesus.
Of active players, only one other active player has ever done that.
Where's he at now in the points race in the NHL?
Still fourth, I believe, but moving up fast. But only one other active player has a 9-game multi-point streak in their career.
In their career?
Yeah, active players. Only one has done it.
Who is it?
Steven Stamkos. 4 years ago for the Lightning.
Stammer.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Probably had a few power play goals in there somewhere.
Yep. John Cooper got his 600th career win. He's the second fastest to reach that.
How about that? You just had your 1,000th game, and now you have your 600th win. I'm not a mathematician, but that's a pretty good win percentage right there.
He did it in 1,005 games. So,
man, them some Hall of Famers, as they say. A lot of guys going to be going to the Hockey Hall of Fame after this.
Yeah, Cooch is now fourth with 67 points in 40 games. He's only 11 points behind McKinnon and McDavid, who lead the race. And both
is he
going to
win an MVP? You think? Is there? I mean,
so if I had to handicap it right now, McKinnon got off to such a great start and is having a phenomenal season. But he's leading in points per game at 1.77. McDavid's right there tied with him, but Macklin Celebrini might get it.
Really?
Second-year player for the Sharks. He's got 70 points. Third in the scoring race as a second-year player. And he's willing San Jose into a playoff spot right now. Because he's got like 40 points more than anybody else on his team. Like, he's just dominant. Like, he's been incredible. And it might be one of those, it's his turn. But Cooch is, I mean, the tear he's on right now is incredible. Like I said, he's 11 points back, but McKinnon and McDavid have 4 and 5 more games played than him. Because Cooch missed a few games. Sick, and he was hurt.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he's on an incredible tear. In the first 10 games of the season, it was what's wrong with him.
Yeah, well, the team itself didn't get off to a great start.
No, they did not. So,
and Cooch was probably a big part of that, but
yep.
They've certainly settled in now. I mean, and they still, of course, if you lose Brayden Point for a long time, or God forbid the rest of the season, that changes things. But they still have players they're going to get back, the Victor Hedmans and some others. But yeah, it's an incredible. I mean, to win 10 in a row in hockey, chance to tie the mark, break it. That's pretty cool stuff.
Now but the Brayden Point injury is very worrisome.
Sure, it is. Was he a 50-goal scorer last year?
Was it last year? I mean, he's done 50 goals before.
Or 2 years ago?
Whatever year it was. But he was starting to play really well. I mean, that line had great chemistry with Point, Cooch, and Gonzalez has been on that line. And he's been playing fantastic with those two.
Yeah.
And it really helped them kind of round out the lines by putting Gage up there. Then you had Sorelli, Hagel, Gensel.
That's a great one.
Then you got Gord, Gergensons, Holmberg.
Right.
They scored a goal a minute 10 in. Holmberg did tonight.
Is that their third line?
Yep. Well, yes. Yep.
Yeah.
And then, Paul, centers, and Paul and James.
Right.
On that fourth, whatever you want to call your fourth, and Bjorkstrand on the fourth line. Like, they really kind of don't have a fourth line. It's kind of 2 third lines.
Yeah, they're pretty balanced, man. They're good.
Yeah. Now, if you take Point out of there, now it's okay. Now you got to shuffle things.
Right.
So hopefully it's, my guess is he won't play tonight, but you're hoping it's not long term.
Probably miss some time, just depending. But I don't know. Hockey, sometimes they're cagey about injuries, but if it's severe enough, they'll let people know. So you just.
But even like kind of the way, I mean, Hagel post game was talking about, we wanted to go out there and close out that game for Pointer. Like, the players know.
Well, if they're dedicating games to him, that's not.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying they know exactly what's wrong, but they know it's not.
They know he's not coming back tomorrow.
He's not kept out for precautionary reasons tonight. Like, there's something wrong.
Yeah. Wow.
I mean, in a season where they've dealt with so many injuries, dealing with that one would be rough.
Yeah, no, you don't want to lose that dude. You don't want to lose there's certain guys on every team, whether it's hockey or any team, that are just your foundational, your dudes, especially scorers like that, because he's such a great offensive weapon that, I don't know. It seems like, and this wasn't a situation where he was targeted or anything, but.
No, the guy fell on his leg. Like,
yeah. But in the past, in the postseason, we've seen Florida make some runs.
Oh, yeah.
So
and they keep targeting. I mean, Carter Verhaeghe the other night boarded somebody that should have been a major and suspension, didn't get it. Like,
and that's what Panthers do. But I mean, if you're one of the top dudes, one of the top scorers, you are going to get some attention, and some of it unwanted. But that wasn't the case here. I did want to come back and now that we have a final on the Steelers game, they got blasted. 30-6.
Is that the last of Aaron Rodgers?
Rodgers, we can talk about Mike Tomlin. Let's do that. I got some thoughts about that. Just real quick, though. First, hey, get on down to Breitling Boutique International Plaza Mall before we forget. They are our sponsors and good ones at that. And the reason you want to go is that you're going to get the best timepiece you've ever owned. Now, Breitling Boutique has been in business at the International Plaza Mall for about 6 years. The Breitling Company, of course, in Switzerland, has been making those watches for over 140 years. And when you go, it's the center of the mall, second floor. Check out the beautiful men's watches, the Navitimers, the Chronomats that they're known for. They also have ladies' watches for your wife, your girlfriend, sports watches is what they are, and they're durable. If your wife or girlfriend's on the go like mine, have something that she can look and be proud of, and also it will hold up. She can choose from an array of different colored wristbands and all of that. And while supplies last, this is so important because they are running out and running out fast. If you look in the window as you approach Breitling Boutique there on the second floor, you're going to see the letters NFL, and there's a display of the NFL watches. The last time I checked, there was one for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, one for the Jacksonville Jaguars. They've commemorating the NFL's 104th year anniversary with 32 different team watches, each one separately, commemorating that team. Like with the Buccaneers watch, it has the red face with the various logos inside. These are collector's items, trust me, and you're going to want one. It's Breitling Boutique, International Plaza Mall. When you go, let them know that you heard about it right here on Sports Day Tampa Bay. All right, here's the stat. Here's the one that's going to be repeated over and over these next, until we know whether Mike Tomlin's going to coach again or not for the Steelers. The Steelers have now lost each of their last 7 playoff games. 7. Dating back to 2016, the AFC Championship game in 2016. It's the longest playoff losing streak in franchise history. Now, this is a proud Pittsburgh Steelers franchise that is very used to going to the postseason. None of the last 5 games have really been really that close. They've lost them all by double digits. In this last game, the Houston Texans destroyed them, I think something like 30-6. They were terrible on third down, just domination by that Houston defense, and some plays made by C.J. Stroud in the offense as well. All right, you're a Steeler fan. You've got Tomlin fatigue, right? We know that the Steelers and the Rooney family, they don't fire coaches. They've had 3 and 50-something years. And Tomlin has consistently said, scoffed at the notion that there's any other place he'd want to go. I got the best job, in the NFL. I'm not going to entertain all that stuff. Well, I wonder if he will now. I wonder if the Steelers will now. I think he has 1 year left on his contract. We've just seen Jim Harbaugh do this. There's been speculation, and I don't think that these stories get out there by accident, but there's been speculation that maybe rather than coaching, Tomlin would entertain broadcasting.
I think every network wants him.
Yeah. So, that means that somebody's agent's talking to somebody's agent. I don't know. Aaron Rodgers is not guaranteed to come back. That's for damn sure. And I think tonight, as much as any time I've seen him play low these last 4 or 5 years, because, he played Brady in the championship game the year he won the MVP, he looks like it's time, right? Can't avoid the rush. Sort of plays like a guy that, wants to leave this game walking, instead of limping out. And it's just no way you can play football. But was he effective? Could he win 9 games with somebody next year? I'm sure he could. And maybe there'd be a team out there that would take a flyer on him. But you're one of the game's greats, and I can't get inside his head. Obviously wouldn't want to be, but I just, there's something about these great stars that they don't know when to leave the party. And what I would tell Aaron is it's time, man. You didn't embarrass yourself this year. You got your team to the playoffs. It's not a great offensive team. You did probably about as much as you could do, and you stayed healthy. You made it through the season. Walk away while you still can. Walk away too soon instead of limp away too late. I don't, and he's left the door open, not for just returning to Pittsburgh, but maybe just playing someplace else, which would be really weird, right? So it's interesting. Like, I don't know. What do you think Tomlin does? Do you think he coaches, leaves Pittsburgh and does nothing, leaves Pittsburgh and coaches somewhere else?
I don't think Pittsburgh will force him out.
Right.
I think it's his decision.
Of course, I would never have thought that Baltimore would have had that decision either.
Yeah, but I think their owner's a little more likely to make that move than the Rooney family.
Historically, that's true. Yeah.
I mean, my guess is Tomlin stays there, but if he just wants a change, whether it's another coaching gig or whether it's go to media for a little bit. Like, it sounds like Harbaugh definitely wants to coach next year because there was thoughts he might take a year off.
Yeah, he's gotten it out there that he definitely is going to coach.
Yeah.
He's trying to get his interviews, his visits, if there are going to be some lined up for next week.
Mm-hmm.
We've heard all kinds of crazy things, numbers like $20 million a year, $10 million a year for his staff. And those are achievable, right? Those are achievable based on who's getting paid these days. And you know, the prices go up all the time. I think Andy Reid is one of the highest paid at $18 million. It's crazy money, but I've always said this. I don't know, you know, why you worry about it when you spend $250 million on players and $14 million on a, you know, kind of a washed up edge rusher like, you know, Hassan Reddick. Why wouldn't you spend $20 million on a head coach if he's the guy that's going to be the face of your franchise and lead you, you know, to the postseason? It's a lot of money for sure, but he's going to get it. And where he gets it, I don't know. You know, some of these teams don't want to pay those salaries, obviously, but here we are. But I do, you know, there are people that still believe that, you know, Todd Bowles, while it says he's safe and he's, you know, obviously doing interviews virtually and otherwise for his coaching staff and fired coaches and told me he was the head coach, there are still some that thinks that the Glazers might change their minds if the right guy came along. Now, the reports are that they did check into Harbaugh, you know, and if that's true, the reason they weren't interested was that Harbaugh is going to demand his own general manager.
Or demand too much money,
or control, or too much money, or all of it. Yeah, sure. You're gonna have to turn over a big part of your football ops, if not the entire thing, to him, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then he also could ask for this that people never think of, they're never really mentioned. How about some money for free agents, right? What's your commitment? And you look at the Glazers and you look at last year and you go, well, they re-signed two of their own guys and they brought in Hassan for $14 million. Like that's not going for it. And these guys, if they're going to start over someplace, you know, they want some damn players. They want some money, you know, some skin in the game. They want their to have a chance. So, you know, that's another factor that you don't know what the dynamics are here in Tampa. Which is one reason. I mean, I'm telling you, it's in part a reason why Todd Bowles is still here, because they signed him to a 3-year extension. I'm not naive. I don't think anybody should be naive to the fact, even though it's like, well, it's, you know, it's not that much money. Well, okay, well, even if it's $24 million, right? But you got to fire all the staff members if they say they all have 1 year left on their deal. But more than that, you got to bring in a whole new staff and a whole new head coach that you got to pay, and you're paying Todd for 3 more years. So it is an expense. You know, over in England, they fired 2 coaches in the last 18 months. It's cost them, or will cost them, $40 million, not pounds, but dollars. And they still have to bring in a new coaching group. Now, when I guess over there, when you bring in new coaches, that some of the salary from that guy gets washed away and the other team pays it or whatever. So it might reduce that debt a little bit. And I know they run it as separate entities, but again, we've said this, it's all the same family. They're still making decisions and paying coaches that aren't coaching for them, you know, and the idea is not to do that. Now, you could argue what the wisdom of signing Todd Bowles to a 3-year extension that begins next year, what that was for, but he won, as he said, he won 3 straight division championships, and he's you know, he's earned it, or so he says. Now we'll see, but I know there's going to be the same talk that there was with Harbaugh when he became available. Like, well, what if it's Mike Tomlin? I don't know. I don't know how Mike would do coming back here. He's a hell of a coach, a Hall of Fame coach. Definitely would change the culture in the room. There's no question about that. That's probably the greatest thing he does is set the tone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's not an X's and O. He's not calling the defense, although he's capable of it, but he doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
But it's another defensive coach.
It's another defensive coach, and it's one that you have a history with.
The same issues of going to have to find offensive coordinators every time you do well.
Every time, yeah. And that's hurt them up there. You know, Arthur Smith's not a great offensive coordinator. They've run through a bunch of them. You know, And it's there's a lot of trying to get away. You usually hire what you don't have, and what they have right now is a defensive coach, and that's why they're trying to hire their 5th straight coordinator in 5 years, which is not a way to survive in this league.
By the way, Tomlin tied for the longest postseason losing streak by a coach in NFL history with Marvin Lewis.
With the great Marvin Lewis, who the Bucs were going to hire. If you watch the docuseries, I lived that one.
Yep,
that's who Rich McKay thought that they would hire after Tony Dungy got fired. And I was in New Orleans and walked down on that Saturday afternoon, never forget it, down to the Ritz-Carlton, and Rich said, nope, they didn't. The Lasers didn't go for it. He's too much like Tony, and they took away the search from him, and of course wound up with the deal for John Gruden. So yeah, incredible. Yeah, so I'd say no to Tomlin's probably, even if he's shook free for all those reasons, I don't think he'd end up back here in Tampa. But he would be coveted. He would be high on the list of a lot of teams out there, and there are about 7 teams right now, 7, 8 teams looking for head coaches.
Is it 8, I believe?
Is it 8 now? Yeah. But those dominoes got to fall, and right now they would start with Harbaugh, and then you'll start seeing teams marry up.
I mean, it could be 10 if the Packers and the Steelers move on.
Absolutely. And the problem with the Packers, Ed Policy, I know his dad Carmen pretty well, but Ed Policy is trying to re-sign Matt LaFleur, but LaFleur could say, well, I want 20 million or I want 18 million because it's out there for him. And the Packers don't traditionally pay top of the line money to their head coaches. And if they say no, then you get, all they have said is that we're going to try to reach an extension with them. They didn't say it will be successful. So, and then I think that would affect, I think that's what Harbaugh's waiting to see too. That would affect his decision because right now the handicappers say it's probably going to be either the Giants or Atlanta. And Arthur Blank will pay. He will pay for what it takes if he thinks this is the way he's going to get back to the playoffs and the Super Bowl.
Well, remember, he's turned over the whole operation. I mean, he got rid of.
That's right.
Rich McKay, got rid of the GM, got rid of.
Yeah. Matt Ryan's now the president of football.
Yeah. Because, I mean, a couple of years ago, he wouldn't turn over everything to Belichick.
No. That's right.
And maybe he's regretting that, or maybe Harbaugh's just a big enough name he's willing to.
I think he just trusts Matt because, he had him for so many years. And yeah, with Harbaugh, I think it's a big enough fish that you would say, okay, I like what he stands for, instant credibility, stability, a winner, all the things they're trying to be in Atlanta. Arthur's not getting younger, man. He wants to win. He's a passionate owner. He wants to win a Super Bowl now. So, that's a definite fit. I don't know where he goes if Green Bay doesn't become available. My guess is it's going to be New York, but it's not a slam dunk. I mean, the Jackson Dart versus Michael Penix, is there a big difference there? Atlanta, easier division. Giants, I don't know, greatest city on earth. Lot to weigh right there. But I'm not their agent, which is a good thing. Okay, so Lightning back on the road.
Yep, they're in Pittsburgh tonight, looking for their 11th straight win, which will tie a franchise record.
Maybe Mike Tomlin will be there. Who knows?
Maybe, you never know.
Yeah, look for the record. This is an awesome season. What if they reel off like 15 in a row or something crazy? What is the NHL record? Curious, 20,
at least 16. There was a 16 game streak not that long. There was. I mean,
so hard to do. Now, do they call it a non-losing streak or is it a winning streak?
The Lightning have a winning streak.
They have a winning streak. Okay.
I mean, which means you may have won some in overtime.
You could have
shootout.
A point streak, right?
Well, yeah, there's point streaks different than a winning streak.
Okay, this is a winning streak.
Yes, they've won 10 straight games.
Gotcha. Okay.
Looks like the longest streak is 17.
Dang, man, go for history, man.
Penguins did it in 1993.
Oh, you're not that far away. It can be done. That'd be incredible. Get exciting around here if they start doing that, right?
It should be excited regardless.
Should be anyway, but yeah.
I mean, if you look at points percentage in the NHL, the Lightning have moved up to the third best team. Behind the Avalanche, who were dominating, and then, although the Lightning did beat them.
Yeah.
And then the Dallas Stars are 2, and Lightning are 3.
Yeah, I just know that if you win every game, you're going to become the best in your sport.
That is true.
You just keep winning, man. Just win, baby. This could be one of the greatest Lightning seasons ever.
As John Cooper says, just keep munching points.
That's it. And look, once the NFL starts to whittle down, and it has here in Florida.
By the way, 4 home teams lost out of 6 this weekend in the NFL.
Yeah, they did.
All the 3 and the 4 seeds lost.
That's right. Not sure what that means, but that's right.
Yeah. And the 7 seed, I believe, is now 1-11 in the 6 years of 14 teams in the playoff.
So you're saying there's a little chance when you sneak in like that, huh?
Yeah, well, only one is one.
Yeah. Well, it certainly pays. Pays for the owners. They're happy. They'd put them all in the round robin tournament if they could, I'm sure.
Well, the 7, though, you're on the road. Does that
No, I know.
But you want the home games.
Yep, you certainly do. And I think Buffalo has to go to Denver. That's going to be a great game next week, I think. Seattle and San Francisco hook up again in a short week. Boy, they screwed the 49ers. That's just brutal. Just brutal. Have to fly back, after a late game and then play on a Saturday. That's tough duty, but we'll see how they do. Okay, get on down to Breitling Boutique International Plaza Mall. We mentioned that a couple times. Make sure you do it. Check out the beautiful men's watches, the Navitimers, Chronomats, the NFL team watches as well, and watches for your wife, girlfriend. It's Breitling Boutique. You know where International Plaza Mall is. 2nd floor. That's where you're going to find it. Make sure you let them know that you heard about this on Sports Day Tampa Bay. Thanks for listening. As always, everybody, for Steve Versnick, I'm Rick Stroud of the Tampa Bay Times. Have a great night.